Fala aí, galerinha. Alan aqui na área trazendo mais vídeo pro canal. Galerinha, hoje nós vamos dar continuidade aqui nossas aventuras no Genshin Impact. No vídeo de hoje nós vamos estar fazendo aqui a próxima missão aqui na Lenda dos Kaiser, né? A última missão aqui, o Palácio Tingido de Preto. Provavelmente vai fechar, né, o arco aqui da história do evento. Espero que vocês gostem, deixa aquele like, se inscreva no canal. Se você não for inscrito, Vitor Dias, ative aí o sininho das notificações para você receber as notificações dos vídeos. Vamos dar início aqui, navegação. Ah, a gente tem que esperar até 12 horas, né? Então vamos adiantar aqui o relógio. Doze horas do dia seguinte. Vamos teleportar lá pra cima.
Ah, you're here. It appears everyone has arrived. Last night, I visited a former servant who once worked for my family. In my great-grandfather's generation, the Ishin art was tasked with forging an important Goshinto according to an ancient, though all the craftsmen involved were very experienced. The process was still unsuccessful. When the deadline came, the blade still wasn't finished. So the craftsmen all fled and hid for fear of punishment. The Kaidahara clan and Yashiro Commission then conducted an investigation. My great-grandfather and the head of the Kamisato clan eventually tracked down the craft. However, they met fierce resistance from the craftsmen, and in the end they were up. The Kaidahara clan was severely punished for the swordsmiths that had escaped, and the family gradually fell. Moreover, I heard that the head of the Kamisato clan was injured by the fleeing swordsmiths, which combined with his advanced...
Yes. The sudden passing of the family head left the Kamisato clan leaderless. Treacherous people took advantage of the situation, and this single incident had profound effects. Even after the position as head of the clan was passed to my father, the Kamisato clan still wasn't able to regain its prior reputation. But, thanks to my brother, everything is
The failure to forge the blade was ultimately attributed to a lack of required skill and finesse. The Kaidahara clan and the Yashiro Commission... However, the story of the five Kasen seems to imply that the failure didn't stem from a lack of skill, but rather, the diagram had been... Miss Kamisato, I heard yesterday that the Yashiro Commission has still kept the diagram ever since the failed forging all those years ago. Might I ask you to...
Yes, I understand. I will go back and search for the diagram. Please come meet me at the Kamisato estate later.
Ah, começou a quest. Vamos teleportar.
Everyone, I've managed to...
Though the diagram is well preserved, you can still tell that it's seen at least 3...
Whoa, that's pretty old. Is it?
At this point, we can only try our luck and see how we fare.
Although the effect is not too obvious, you can still see the Kazuha. This is clear evidence that this chart was indeed tampered with.
I see. But I fear that I've discovered this secret too late. When my grandfather was young, he proposed reviving the Ishin art many times to my great-grandfather. But my grandfather... Yesterday, The former family servant said that my great-grandfather even went to the Yashiro Commission to request that diagram from the head of the Kamisato clan. He then, sure enough, my grandfather also failed. My great-grandfather then told him my grandfather left Inazuma in a rage after hearing those words. He didn't ever see my great-grand... Looking back at it now, the argument between the two of them...
Oh,
I heard that your great-grandfather was very industrious when he was young, but later in life, he no longer bothered with the forging arts. It appears...
Kazuha, did your great-grandfather really say, if you can't find the secret within?
Yes. The servant said that he personally heard those words. My grandfather was so angry at the time that he smashed my great-grandfather's cherished bonsai tree.
Yes, it appears that you understand my meaning. Kazuha, if your great-grandfather thought that the Ishin art lacked finesse, then after witnessing his son's failure, wouldn't he have said something more along the lines of, your skills aren't sufficient? But instead he said, if you can't find the secret within. Don't you find that a little strange?
Huh? So you're saying my great-grandfather may have very well known that the failure was due to someone's temper?
Yes. The current evidence suggests that is...
I apologize, but would you all please... After I became a wanted criminal, the Tenryou Commission seized my family's last remaining... I want to inquire about the whereabouts of those belongings. If I...
All right,
Vamos reportar.
What are you all doing here? Did something happen on Rito?
Kujo Sara.
Yes, I do. You're Kaedehara Kazuha, a wanted criminal during the vision hunt to...
Sarah, we'd like to ask about the Kaedehara clan's property that was seized by the Tenryou.
Yes, the items seized at that time are currently stored in the warehouse next to the police station. Since Kaedehara has come back to Inazuma...
No, I'm afraid you misunderstand. I'm not here to reclaim those...
I see. All right, I'll inform the...
Thank you,
Kaedehara, about the vision hunt decree.
That's all in the past now, Kujo Sara. There's no need to mention it again. I know... However, may I ask something of...
Yes? What is it?
Currently, I have no plans to stay in Inazuma. As a result, those items from my family's estate are of no use to me. Madam Kujo, I believe you are a person of integrity. After our investigation is over, I'd like to ask if you can handle those belongings for me. Please, sell them, and use the money to help the poor.
All right, I understand. I'll be sure to take care of it.
Aqui pertinho.
This is the headquarters of the
Ah, you must be here to investigate the Kaedehara clan's belongings. Well, Madame Kujo's already informed. The Kaedehara clan's belongings are stored in this warehouse. Unfortunately, however, I have clearly marked the corresponding items, so I'll be waiting for you at the door. Please, come see me if you're...
Kazuha, since the items are scattered throughout the building, I propose we split up and...
Yes, sounds like a plan.
Ah.
Oh, it's you.
Oh, since the Kaidahara clan was a family of renowned swordsmiths.
I'm afraid not. Although the sword rack is made of fine wood, the swords placed here appear to be quite ordinary. The blade on the sword hasn't been sharpened, but there are many signs of use on the hilt.
Let Paimon see! Oh, there seems to be a couple uneven characters etched into the scab. Paimon can imagine what Kazuha was like.
I will continue investigating here and call you if...
Oh, it's you.
Whoa, this...
Yes. Perhaps if it were better maintained, then it could fetch a decent... I was taking a closer look just now, and the soil is deeply embedded into the cloth. Because this is... Let me think.
Albedo seems to be thinking pretty... What did you find, Shinjo?
I found quite the pile of... These books here are all related to smelting steel. And these...
The books about plants and flowers must...
I skimmed through them just now, but I didn't find anything particularly worth noting. I shall...
There must be some around here. Do you see all these pots here? Some of them are bound to have liquor in...
Hey! Everyone else is trying hard.
I merely jest, of course.
Well, Paimon doesn't really get why Kazuha told Sara. What if we don't end up finding anything today? Then wouldn't Kazuha lose the...
I know you are worried about Kazuha, but if you ask me, since Kazuha made such a request to Sara, that indicates he's already made his choice. Whether we find out the truth or not today, or no, not intuition. Rather, I've lived for a long time now, so leave the things here to me. You
Everyone, I found some... This flower pot was in my house for a long time. I heard...
Yeah, the plants seem to have been...
Well, after my great-grandfather stopped studying the forging arts, he picked up the hobby of keeping bonsai plants. But he specifically left behind this dead plant at the time. And even my grandfather deeply regretted that he never managed to reconcile with my great-grandfather. But now that I think about it, my great...
Now that you mention it, this...
Yes.
We finally found something! Do you think someone already discovered the compartment?
No, I do not think that is the case here. See the paper? It's quite yellowed, which means it's very old.
You mean to say that these sheets have been written with...
Yes,
Okay!
There is a pond outside the police station.
Well, how did it go? Those weren't just plain old sheets of paper, were they?
Just as everyone guessed, after I sprinkled some water onto the paper, writing did indeed begin.
Oh? What does the letter say?
It is. I'll tell you what my great-grandfather knew at the time, but everyone?
Kaidehara, why did you lead us to this beach?
It is. In fact, our hypothesis was correct. My great-grandfather was well aware of the truth behind the defective blades. It reads, to whoever reads this letter, I, Kaidehara Yoshinori, have been held to a certain secret throughout my entire life. All those years ago, when I was pursuing the swordsmiths alongside Commissioner Kamisato of the Yashiro Commission, I was not injured by one of the fleeing smiths. Rather,
It was night, and after the clues led us down to shore, I waited for the culprits to show themselves. However, this stranger claimed to be the one behind the failed forgings, and said that he had been patiently waiting for us. He then threatened to... That person was of able body, and in a blink of an eye, myself and the accompanying samurai had been... Commissioner Kamisato was severely wounded, and I barely escaped death myself. The unusual stranger could have easily claimed my life at that moment. But, after noticing my appearance, he stopped his attacks, and sternly asked if I had any connection with the name Niwa. I answered that it was my father's surname, and after my father disappeared, I was adopted by the Kaedahara family. Upon hearing my answer, the stranger paused. After a long silence, he suddenly said, "Tell her this. My name is Kuni Kuzushi." He then turned and left.
Wow.
yes. My great-grandfather and the head of the Kamisato clan escaped from death and learned, however, due to the encounter, the head of the Kamisato clan was worried that my great-grandfather would be falsely accused of being involved with the perpetrator. So even on his deathbed, the master of the Kamisato, because the perpetrator said he would destroy the Raiden Gokaden, my great-grandfather worried that the perpetrator would still return for vengeance. So, he said, "As the leader of the Kaedahara clan, I am deeply ashamed to witness the decline of the Ishin art. But as a father, it is my priority to ensure the safety of my children and grandchildren." Yes, that's right. If my grandpa had somehow discovered the secret behind the tampered diagram all those years ago, unfortunately, he failed to catch any of the hints in my great-grandfather's work. Miss Kamisato, it appears you were unaware of the happenings that my great-grandfather described here.
I suppose the reason the head of the Kamisato house never spoke of this to the family was due to if the perpetrator was capable of tampering with even the Shogun's diagrams and could single-handedly defeat many men. I will discuss this matter with Brother shortly and investigate the identity behind the one called Kuni Kuzushi.
To be honest, as I read the letter, I felt much turbulence in my heart. My great-grandfather said in the letter that he did not wish his descendants to blindly seek revenge and be deceived by things of the past. Though he was in a tight situation when he wrote these words, I feel like they are still... I think what's most important for each person is not the past, but the present. Even though we must carry the burdens from the past, therefore, knowing the truth behind what happened is enough for me. That being said, if the enemy from all those years ago is still lurking and plotting to stir up more trouble, then I definitely won't turn a blind eye. These are simply insights I've gathered from all that I've... Thank you all for accompanying me and...
Right! Now that we're done here, let's head back to Rito. Today is the final stage of the Iridori Festival. Not only will there be
Hello, traveler.
Albedo, why is the portrait of Kuranushi all covered up? Paimon wants to see what your
Don't worry. The unveiling ceremony... I will say that I'm most satisfied with this particular work.
Vamos procurar o pessoal aqui, né?
Traveler, Paimon, it's a pleasure to... Indeed it did. Thanks to you, the You aren't mistaken. Though I'm ashamed to admit it. After all, I came to Inazuma under the pretext of evaluating a potential investment. If an acquaintance... Fortunately, the crowds of readers that came flocking over have kept... Oh, I should mention, Shu is also unaware of the real purpose of my trip. If you happen to meet then, please accept my thanks in advance. I'll see you later at the unveiling ceremony for...
Get in line over there.
Ah, greeting.
Oh, Ayato! We've
Yes, there were many things which required my attention these past few days. Fortunately, the Iridori Festival is proceeding smoothly. The Tri-Commission cooperated closely to
Brother and I are...
Toma sure is taking his sweet time.
Yes. Today is one of the rare occasions when Brother isn't busy. I was going to buy some books, but he said he wanted to come along. His trip...
Paimon didn't think Ayato could...
Brother always worked so... Toma and I really cherish such moments when he's forget...
Maybe I could just turn my diary into a light.
I just absolutely love this video.
Enjoy the blessing of Blessed Lord Kusanagi, and I shall bless you now.
Well,
Hey!
is that so? I'm afraid you're just overthinking things.
We were merely discussing wine and food. I'm short.
Speaking of good sides with sake, I personally prefer fried tofu.
Forget it. Even if those two are plotting something, they'd still never let... Kazuha, what are you doing?
I came here to take in the sea breeze. Such a bustling atmosphere. I knew you were still worried about me. Thank you. But please, don't worry. The things I said in front of everyone weren't just pretty-sounding excuses. Look. See this familiar harbor in front of us? Before, you could sit here all day without... But now, not only are foreigners coming to Inazuma again, but traffic between here and Watatsumi Island has also been picking up.
Yeah. Inazuma has already started to change, huh?
I was thinking, in some ways, each and every one of us are similar to this country. It might take a different amount of time for different people, but there will inevitably come a day when they finally let go. They are free to...
It's time for the portraits unveiling ceremony.
Encontramos todo mundo, vamos votar, né?
Castle Plaza.
Everyone, welcome to the magnificent... Today, we have ushered in the final stage, and now we will reveal the final portrait of the 5 Kasen.
Paimon has no idea what Albedo's portrait...
Let's all count down together. 3, 2, 1... Huh? What's this? This piece depicts nothing but a background. I suppose Calx must have forgotten to include the character. Let's hear some words from...
Hello, everyone. First, I would like to say that it was an honor to be invited to create the portraits of the 5... The 5 Kasen are legendary figures from ancient Inazuma, famous for their works of poetry. As time passed, poems were composed about them, and they became the... I learned from existing sources about those stories that the character of Kuronushi is the deepest and most differing of the 5 Kasen. Moreover, Kuronushi lacks a dedicated chapter among the stories. It's as if he is a behind-the-scenes role of the 5 Kasen. Perhaps we can assume that every creator had a different understanding of Kuronushi. So, in the same way, I also wanted to leave this character to everyone's own imagination. After all, the Iridori Festival is a place for everyone to express their minds through creative works.
Yep, that's Albedo for ya. His super logical explanation is sure to win everyone's approval. Well, it seems that our adventures at the Iridori Festival have come to a close. Huh? Oh. Oh, right! We still haven't figured out who left those... Really? Come on then, who is it? Tell Paimon! Well, that makes sense. Otherwise, there'd be no way to give the right paper to the right person every time. Right. Even though they were using stories to hint us toward Shincho's troubles, the real goal was to lead us to some... Paimon gets it now. Well, at least Paimon thinks she knows. Let's go! We'll get to the...
The one who left the stories of the 5 Kasan. But seeing as you stumbled upon me, you aren't... Because other than me, there's only...
Então foi ela.
The person who left, after all, if they wanted to simply tell me what happened, there'd be...
Festivals always attract so many people. Ayato! You're the one but don't you think you overdid it a little?
As it just so happens, one of the reasons I'm here... First of all, the start of this whole incident was due to mere happenstance. You see, Lady Yai happened to catch sight of Shincho and the editor...
Huh? So if Paimon knew it, this thing...
That's right. But using the story of the 5 Kasan to guide you to the Kaedehara family's secrets was my... As for my roundabout approach... Well, yes. Due to a certain incident that occurred earlier, I happened to notice the bonsai plants left behind by Kaedehara. I knew there was more than meets the eye regarding those papers, but it took me some time to figure out the secret behind the... What Kaedehara Yoshinori said in the letter is very important for both the Kamisato clan and the descendants of the Kaedehara clan used to be subordinates of the Kamisato clan. It was my ancestors who were unable to protect them all those years ago. Although he has the right to know the truth, the closer he draws to things hidden out of sight, the closer he also draws to danger. Of course, I could outright tell him the truth that I had discovered, but maybe he doesn't have the will that's required. If he lacks the ability, then he wouldn't be able to find the truth in the first place. In which case, it would be Kaedehara Yoshinori left his message in around... For a long time, I yearned for a suitable opportunity to convey this matter, right up until the night when a legend of sword was smuggled away.
Oh, Paimon gets it now. Yeah, it wasn't only Kazuha. You brought all of the rest of us into this plan of yours.
I figured you would ask this question eventually. I merely saw that this matter would be of value to you. And more importantly, I hoped that while Kazuha and Ayaka were looking for the answers to reliable friends who would be willing to protect them and make measured decisions, friends who would spare no effort to lend a helping hand in times of trouble, because it is also very likely that you will face the same enemy You already know the answer deep down inside, don't you? The answer is actually hidden in the portrait of Kuranushi. When there is no one else near the portrait, you can confirm with your own eyes. As for the means of revealing that answer, well...
Vamos esperar até meia-noite, né? Olha essa parte que tá demorando muito.
It's getting pretty late, so nobody else... So Ayato must have been telling us to splash water on the portrait.
Jogar água?
It's the Balladeer! So he was the one behind the trouble all those years ago!
When there is no one else near the portrait, you can confirm with your own eyes. As for the means of revealing that answer, well, you have used it many times before. Also, there's one last thing that we must discuss. I mentioned earlier that the occurrence of a certain incident made me notice the bonsai plants. I wish to tell you of that incident now. It was just after the Shogun announced the abolition of the Sakoku decree. I heard that they had discovered signs that someone had entered the warehouse storing the Commission's articles of evidence and confiscated items. I felt something unusual about that incident, so I told Kujo Sara of the Tenryou Commission to treat it as if nothing happened. She was not to increase the guard or relocate the warehouse contents. In the meantime, I sent a member of the Shumatsuban to keep watch over the warehouse. And sure enough, someone was sneaking in and rummaging through the belongings of the Kaedahara clan.
You mean, he was up?
I let him search for a while, but in the end, he found nothing. Soon after, he had to leave Inazuma by boat.
Why didn't you send someone to catch him?
The best way to protect a secret is to treat it as if it doesn't exist, is it not? Besides, after he left Inazuma, I carefully checked the Kaedahara clan's belongings one by one, and eventually discovered the paper. I am certain that the papers are the secret which the infiltrator sought to find, though he couldn't confirm whether this secret existed at all. So, now on to my final question. Which part of Kaedahara Yoshinori's experiences was the secret that needed to be protected? I don't have an... As for now, please, enjoy yourselves at the Iridori Festival.
Então, galerinha, concluímos aí a missão. Essa missão foi um pouco mais demorada, né? Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Deixa aquele like, se inscreva no canal. Se você não for inscrito, Vitor Dias, ative aí o sininho das notificações para você receber as notificações dos vídeos. Queria agradecer o pessoal que tá se inscrevendo no canal, o pessoal tá deixando aqui feedback nos comentários, o pessoal tá compartilhando aí os vídeos nas redes sociais. E a gente se vê no próximo vídeo. Valeu, falou e fui!